Okay, now let's move on to another section, that is interacting with the examiner. Now what does this mean, interacting with the examiner? Over here, when you are interacting, especially during your phase 1 and phase 3, there are certain things that you need to take care, which seems very minute but makes a lot of difference and gives a right impression to the examiner of formally speaking. Now what does the first one say? Over here, avoid yes and no answer or request another question. Now what do you mean by yes and no answer? Yes and no answer means there are certain questions in IELTS speaking exam where the answers are whether yes or no. In that matter of the fact, you are supposed to give your opinion and your suggestion. You can't simply say yes and no. By saying simply yes and no, it seems very rude to the examiner, especially when you give your opinion or your point of view. That gives a very good impact to your answer and can always give you more marks. That's why we say never just simply say yes and no. Always attach it with an example if you can. And it also says never ask an examiner to tell you another question. This is not at all advisable. If you do not know any answer to the question, you can always say that I am not aware about this side of the topic and move on. Now we'll move on to the second tip. Now what does your second tip say? Do not simply say I don't know. There again will be questions where you are not at all aware about that topic. In that case, just say I am not aware about this side of the topic. An examiner will simply understand and won't ask you any further question related to the same question or the same topic. Now, the third tip, it says it's okay to correct yourself. If you can't, then forget it and move on. Now, in speaking, there is a human tendency that everybody corrects themselves. That is what we call self-correction. Now, self-correction is a very natural process that comes. In speaking, it is totally okay to correct yourself. Examiner will not judge you on that. Rather, you can always correct yourself and save yourself from making any grammatical errors. Now, if you made a mistake couple of sentences before and you suddenly realize it in the middle of another sentence, so in that case, what will you do? In that case, you cannot get back to that answer and say that I made a mistake in this statement. It is okay. It's okay to move on.